Thank you for joining me for a talk which concerns anyone who cherishes freedom, mankind and civilization, and who resists tyranny, demonization and subjugation. Let me say this at the outset of this talk. The Western world is neither free nor democratic, but is instead ruled by tyrants, and tyrants of the most depraved kind. Under the cover of words which those tyrants have appropriated and distorted to fit their sick, vile, evil agenda, such as democracy, equality, tolerance, compassion and diversity, they have destroyed each and every institution in the Western world, inflicted enormous damage on the cultural and spiritual values of Western nations, annihilated the ancient values of Western nations, and brought pain and misery into the day-to-day lives of Western nations. The tyrants who rule the Western world, and whom I refer to as the Western ruling elites, but are more commonly known as globalists, are the most criminal, violent and depraved in human history. And they did not take control of the Western world during the pandemic. No, they have been ruling the Western world for many, many decades now. At the heart of the Western ruling elites are Europe's monarchies, especially the British one, Europe's aristocracies, in particular the British one, banking elites, financial elites, and media barons. All of the aforementioned groups loathe the Western nations and, consequently, have no loyalty to them. I know I speak for millions of Britons, Americans, Canadians, Australians, New Zealanders, French, Germans and Swedes, for instance, when I say that for decades now we have had nothing to celebrate. We have seen our countries, societies, communities, cultures, history, values and day-to-day lives spat on and urinated on by the Western ruling elites. We have been humiliated and we have become demoralized. And we have been made to feel like aliens in our own countries. All of that on account of the Western ruling elites and, of course, their useful idiots, such as politicians and mainstream journalists. But today, there is reason for a degree of optimism, and I emphasize a degree of optimism, because Donald Trump is now President of the United States of America, a man who is not part of the ruling class in the Western world, a man who opposes the ideology of the Western ruling elites, a man who has spoken out against the catastrophic damage which has been caused to the Western world by the Western ruling elites, and a man who was nearly assassinated by the Western ruling elites for his endeavours to confront them. The colossal damage which has been inflicted on the Western world by the Western ruling elites will take many, many years to repair. But, God willing, a foundation will be laid in America by Trump, upon which America and the rest of the Western world can be liberated from the poisonous and depraved clutches of the Western ruling elites. Over the past few days, since his inauguration, President Trump has signed an array of executive orders and taken a number of actions which I believe go towards building the said foundation. Because these executive orders and actions are a direct attack on the Western ruling elites and their ideology. Indeed, they constitute a grievous blow to the Western ruling elites and their ideology. These are the executive orders and actions implemented and taken by Trump which constitute a severe blow to the Western ruling elites. declaring an emergency at the US border with Mexico and closing this border, designating drug cartels as terrorist organizations, deporting illegal immigrants, banning DEI in government. In reality, DEI stands for didn't earn it. Introducing the one flag policy, whereby only the American flag can be flown from government buildings, including embassies. Ordering government employees to work in the office, not from home. Banning government from labelling the opinions of American citizens as misinformation or disinformation. Affirming in law that there are only two genders, male and female. Withdrawing America from the World Health Organization. Withdrawing America from the Paris Climate Agreement. Abandoning net zero policies. Reducing the federal payroll. Slashing overseas aid. Freeing from prison the January 6th people. Freeing from prison pro-life people. Pausing all offshore wind farms. Declassifying the JFK and RFK files. And reinstating members of the US Armed Forces who refused to take the so-called COVID vaccine. Never in my lifetime have I seen an American president change the political, economic and social landscape in America in a matter of a few days. And for the better. For one thing, America is now officially anti-woke. A remarkable development given that woke ideology is one of the most dangerous and monstrous of weapons in the arsenal of the Western ruling elites. And in foreign policy terms, this development means that America and Russia, the two superpowers, are now united in their opposition to woke. Thus, discussions between American and Russian officials, which are crucial to ensuring the preservation of human life and planet Earth, have received a welcome boost. Now, at the start of this talk, I said that with Trump in office, there is reason for a degree of optimism. I say that I am optimistic, but with extreme caution, because the Western ruling elites will not lie back and do nothing. They are not to be underestimated, especially the British ruling elite, which has been in power since 1066 and which is at the heart of the Western ruling elites. In short, the Western ruling elites will fight Trump and his administration. Can the Western world be liberated? Yes, it can. History teaches us that all is possible. Can Trump be the one who lays a foundation for that liberation? Possibly. These are early days for Trump and his administration, literally and metaphorically. But I will take something, anything. After all, something is better than nothing. And Trump's executive orders and actions are something, truly something. Furthermore, only by change in America can the Western world be liberated. In Britain, which is the cleverest and most devious tyranny in history, you get nothing. The absolute power and control of the British ruling elite, combined with a British population which is still passive and submissive, means that salvation for Britain can only be found abroad, and specifically in America. There are two final points which I would like to make. Firstly, there are elections this February in Germany. Should AfD come to power, then the writing could be on the wall, so to speak, for the Western ruling elites? And secondly, how refreshing it is to see masculine men whom Trump has appointed to his cabinet, such as Tom Homan. That in itself is a severe blow to the Western ruling elites, who have been very successful in the demasculinization of men in the Western world. Just consider how unmanly the vast majority of male politicians and journalists are in the Western world, as well as males in other institutions in the Western world. So, for now, those of us who love the Western world, our history, culture, religion, values, and way of life, there is reason to rejoice. Thank you very much for listening.